On this occasion we will discuss the history of Mitanni Kingdom. The Kingdom of Mitanni, known to the people of the land, and the Assyrians as Hanagalbat, and to the Egyptians as Naharan and Mitanni, once stretched from present-day northern Iraq, down through Syria and into Turkey, and was among the greatest nations of its time, though today it is largely forgotten. Few records of the people themselves exist, but correspondence between kings of Mitanni and those of Assyria and Egypt, the Amarna letters, as well as the world's oldest horse training manual, and a treaty between the Mitanni and Hittites, give evidence of a prosperous nation which thrived between 1500 and 1240 BCE. In the year 1350 BCE, Mitanni was powerful enough to be included in the Great Powers Club along with Egypt, the Kingdom of the Hutti, Babylonia, and Assyria. Beginning in the 14th century BCE, however, Assyrian incursions weakened the Mitanni kingdom as the Assyrian king Ashur-uballit I, reigned 1365 to 1330 BCE, annexed significant territories. Disputes of succession among Mitanni royalty added to the kingdom's difficulties, and this lack of unity made Mitanni easy prey for the Hittites under their king Suppiluliuma I, reigned 1344 to 1322 BCE, who deported large segments of the population and replaced them with Hittites. The Assyrian king Adad-nirari I, reigned 1307 to 1275 BCE, took the region and, again, deported segments of the population, replacing them with Assyrian subjects. His son and successor, Shalmaneser I, completed the conquest of Mitanni 1250 BCE, and his son, Tukulti-Ninurta I, reigned 1244 to 1208 BCE, defeated the Hittites at the Battle of Neriya 1245 BCE, eliminating them as a power in the region and obliterating the now greatly reduced kingdom of Mitanni, which then became part of the Assyrian Empire. The Mitanni kingdom ruled over the northern Euphrates-Tigris region between 1475 BCE and 1275 BCE. The early people of the region have been variously identified as migratory Indo-Iranians or Indo-Aryans, and they have even been associated with the Semitic Hyksos, but their ethnicity continues to be debated. Scholars have attempted to identify them with one or another group based on the deities' names invoked in a treaty with the Hittites, but both Indo-Aryans and Indo-Iranians, once part of the same migratory band from Central Asia, venerated gods such as Indra, Mitra, and Varuna, among others. It is thought the ruling class were warriors known as Marianyu, which gave the kingdom its name Mitanni when it was translated by the Egyptians as Naharan and Mitanni. The Assyrians knew the kingdom as Hanagalbat, also given as Kanigalbat, Hani-Rabat, and the Hittites referred to the people as the Huri and their territory as the land of the Huri, or Huri, and land of the Hurrians, and so most modern-day scholars agree they were Hurrians. The capital of Mitanni was Washakani, located on the headwaters of the river Habur, a tributary of the Euphrates. The name Washakani is similar to the Kurdish word Bashkani, Bash meaning good and Kani meaning well or source, and so is translated as source of good but also as source of wealth. Some scholars have claimed that the ancient city of Sikon was built on the site of Washakani and that its ruins may be located under the mound of Tel el-Fakariya near Gozan in Syria. Since there are few written records from the people themselves, however, any discussion of the kingdom of Mitanni eventually involves considerable speculation. What the kings of the people did and what other nations they interacted with is known, but nothing of the people's daily lives and religious beliefs. It is clear, however, they were a considerable power in the Near East beginning 1500 BCE. At its height, the Mitanni kingdom controlled trade routes down the Habur to Mari and up the Euphrates to Karchemish. They also controlled the upper Tigris and its headwaters at Nineveh. Their allies included Kazawatna in southeastern Anatolia, Mukesh, which stretched between Ugarit and Katna west of the Oront to the sea, and the Nile, which controlled the east bank of the Oront from Al-Alaq down through Aleppo, Ebla, and Hama to Katna and Kadesh in modern-day Syria. To the east, the Mitanni had good relations with the Hurrian-speaking Kassites whose territory corresponds to present-day Kurdistan. The lands of the Mitanni in northern Syria bordered eastern Anatolia to its west and extended east as far as Nuzi, present-day Kirkuk, Iraq, and the river Tigris in the east. In the south, it extended from Aleppo across to Mari on the Euphrates to the east. The entire region was fertile and allowed for agriculture without artificial irrigation. Herds of cattle, sheep, horses, and goats were raised, and the Mitanni were famed horsemen and charioteers. It is recorded that they were the innovators who spearheaded the development of the light war chariot with wheels that used spokes rather than solid wood wheels, such as those used by the Sumerians, so that the chariots were faster and easier to maneuver. Excavations of the Hittite archives of Hadassa, near present-day Boğazkale, Turkey, found the oldest surviving horse training manual in the world. The work was written in 1345 BCE on 4 tablets and contains 1080 lines by a Mitanni horse trainer named Kekoli, beginning with the words, "Thus speaks Kekoli, master horse trainer of the land of Mitanni," and exhaustively describes the proper methods of training horses. Little is known of the early kings of Mitanni owing to the later destruction of the culture by the Assyrians, but the names of the early rulers are known through the correspondences with other countries. In the 16th century BCE, the most prominent kings seem to have been Kurta, his son Shutarnai, and Baratarna, also given as Parshatatar. King Shoshtutar, reign 1430 BCE, extended the boundaries of Mitanni through the conquest of Alalak, Nuzi, Assur, and Kizuwatna. Egypt, under Thutmose III, reign 1479 to 1425 BCE, defeated the Mitanni at Aleppo after a long period of contention over control of the region of Syria. The Mitanni king Artatama I reigned during the time of the Egyptian pharaoh Amenhotep II, 1425 to 1400 BCE, and Thutmose IV, 1400 to 1390 BCE, but little is known of him other than attempts at forming treaties with Egypt through marriages. His son, Shutarna II, arranged the marriage of his daughter, Kiluhepa, with Amenhotep III, reign 1391 to 1353 BCE, strengthening relations and helping Mitanni to consolidate power and secure its borders. Under Shutarna II, Mitanni attained its height of power and prestige and was listed among the so-called Great Powers Club, also given as Club of the Great Powers. This is a modern-day designation for the strongest nations of the region, including Egypt, Babylonia, and the Kingdom of the Hittites of Anatolia, who interacted with each other through trade and alliances. The daughter of King Tushratta, the Princess Tiduapa, also given as Tidukapa, was arranged in marriage to Amenhotep III as part of a treaty that further balanced power between the two nations. Some scholars have identified Tiduapa with the famous Egyptian queen Nefertiti, LC 1370 to 1336 BCE, wife of Amenhotep III's son, Akhenaten, reigned 1353 to 1336 BCE, or with Akhenaten's lesser wife Kia, but these claims are generally dismissed by scholars. Tushratta sent a large dowry with his daughter, which included the statue of the patron deity of Washakani, the goddess of fertility Saska. Amenhotep III was ill at this time, and Saska, who also presided over healing, was sent to alleviate whatever ailed him, but also, as a love goddess, to bless the marriage and strengthen the union. A list of the gifts is included in correspondence between the two kings and included gold, lavishly ornamented horse saddles and camel litters, jewelry, and expensive clothing. This treaty was put to the test twice. First, when Tushratta wrote Amenhotep III afterwards that he had not received as much gold from Egypt as part of the marriage transaction as expected, and then when Tushratta's authority was challenged by a coup in his home city. The treaty would not survive this second test, which involved a power struggle in Washakani between Tushratta and a relative, possibly his brother, known as Artatama II. Egypt backed Tushratta in this conflict, while the Hittite king Suppiluliuma I, reigned 1344 to 1322 BCE, backed Artatama II. The Hittites, hoping to break the Mitanni hold on trade routes, seem to have brokered a deal with Artatama II to stage a coup, but it appears that Tushratta had the support of his nobles and clearly did have the strength of Egypt behind him at first. Tushratta seemed poised to succeed when Egypt, fearing the growing power of the Hittites, withdrew its support. Suppiluliuma I, tired of diplomacy and now free to do as he pleased without fear of Egyptian reprisal, led his forces on Washakani and sacked it. Tushratta was assassinated by his son, perhaps in an effort to save the city. Following this conquest, Mitanni was ruled for a time by the Hittites through puppet kings who advanced their agenda. Suppiluliuma I divided the former kingdom into two provinces with their capitals at Aleppo and Carchemish. The remainder of the region kept some degree of autonomy, though still a vassal state, and was referenced by the Hittites as Hanagalbat. At some point, the region fell under the yoke of the Assyrian Empire. Exactly when is not clear, but possibly during the reign of the Hittite king Mursili II, reigned 1321 to 1295 BCE, and definitely before the reign of Tudhaliya IV and the Battle of Nineveh in 1245 BCE, which marks the beginning of the decline of the Hittite Empire. The Assyrian king Adad-nirari I left inscriptions telling of how an upstart Hittite king Shatwara I challenged his might, and so Adad-nirari I marched on Mitanni, crushed their forces in battle, and carried Shatwara I back to Ashur in chains, where he was forced to swear an oath of allegiance to the Assyrian rule reign while still an autonomous state. The kingdom now owed tribute and allegiance to Assyria and was no longer considered an equal of the other powers of the region. Mitanni was further reduced during the reign of Adad-nirari's son, Shalmaneser I, reigned 1270s to 1240s BCE, when King Shatwara II of Mitanni rebelled against Assyria with the aid of a nomadic tribe known as the Alamu around 1250 BCE. Shatwara's forces were well organized, fully armed, and had occupied all the mountain passes and waterholes to effectively cut off the Assyrian army's water supply and severely hamper their attempts at foraging. Even so, hungry and thirsty, Shalmaneser's army won a crushing victory. He claims in the records to have slain 14,400 men, and the survivors were blinded and carried away. His inscriptions mention the conquest of 9 fortified temples. 180 Hurrian cities were turned into rubble mounds, and Shalmaneser slaughtered like sheep the armies of the Hittites and the Alamu his allies. The cities from Taidu, also known as Tate, to Eridu were captured, an area which today comprises northern Iraq through Syria, as well as all of the region of the Mount Kashiyari range down to and including the city of Aluhad, also known as Aluhud, which was located southeast in modern-day Turkey. A large part of the population of the conquered regions was sold into slavery and deported. Shalmaneser's son, Tukulti-Ninurta I, defeated the Hittites at Nineveh in 1245, ending their control of the region and absorbing Mitanni fully into the Assyrian Empire. Afterwards, Mitanni was forgotten as a political entity until archaeological excavation of the region in the modern day and the discovery of the Amarna letters in 1887. These letters, found at the site of El Amarna in Egypt, are the correspondence between Egyptian monarchs and others of the Great Powers Club, which, as noted, included Mitanni. The kingdom of Mitanni continues to pose problems for historians and archaeologists, however, owing to its complete destruction by the Assyrians. Even today, most scholars are able to provide only the briefest outline of the history of the kingdom and its culture based on the meager surviving documents and artifacts such as cylinder seals identified with the Mitanni. Thank you for following our videos. Don't forget to share, like and subscribe so you can always follow video updates from us.